almost missed our cue there. Holy shit, who's that?
I'm back, baby.
It says Ross Galloway, but I don't know about all that.
Yeah, man. Listen, I had to shave it off. I was at a Walmart last weekend, and some guy threw some spare change into my empty coffee cup. He thought I was homeless. I was like, all right, that's enough of that.
Oh, come on. I was going to give you that much shit about it, but I mean, listen, if you want to bring it on, then cool. But no, in all seriousness, you got the free bowl of soup to go along with the shave, right?
Where I live now, they don't give the soup. I got a free bag of chips.
Free bag of chips. Oh, you was robbed, my friend. You was robbed.
Smooth as a baby's behind.
We're getting more serious now. We're getting to more of the irritating types of buffoons out there. I found a fancy French phrase called the bête noire. Basically, it means people that irritate me. And that's really what we're going to be talking about here. We have 3 different categories here for you tonight. And I gave Ross a little bit of a preview of who we're talking about. And a lot of it is a who's who, or a who's that, I should say, of political figures, because we might not hit on any household names, but the buffoonery is definitely getting to a level of going from, oh, haha, very funny, to more irritating, right?
I have to tell you the truth, Gene. You threw me completely off with that bête noire thing. I was going to Google it, but I was like, I think it's my printer just messing up. I
had to get the little tilde on the top and everything on the list.
The wingding font get checked off or something? Like, I don't understand what's going on here.
No, okay. So it's actually pronounced bête noire, a person or thing that one particularly dislikes. That's the definition of it from the Oxford Language Dictionary.
Too highbrow for me.
A little too highbrow for me as well, but you know what? It made the book sound a lot classier when I used it. We're going to start out, pal, with a category that I like to call the Leech. The Leech is, and the definition of this has, by the way, evolved since the printing of the book in September of 2022. The Leech, I first intended it to be the political gadfly, the type of personality that we always saw in politics, that was the hang-around, the loudmouth that didn't do anything. And at first, I was thinking more about local buffoons, like local level government people that would be around at community board meetings, or that would be around at school board meetings. You know the type out there. But it has since evolved into political gadflies at all levels. And the biggest political gadflies that we see are all these talking heads on TV that say a lot, don't do much. You know the type I'm talking about, right, pal?
Yeah, I mean, we got a pretty substantive list here of them. I do like the original definition of Leech, though, Gene, because if you remember back to our horrible past, there were a lot of all-talk, no-action people that just hung around for the cocktail hours.
Oh, yeah.
We love those, too, but you have to pound pavement.
The free tickets to the dinners and the events, all the rubber chickens they could eat. Absolutely. I got to read this section from the book here before we get into this. When I first came across the word snollygoster, it's one of these uniquely political words, I knew I had to include it in the book. The definition and origin of the phrase snollygoster is a little tough to nail down, but when it comes down to it, snollygoster is this person that is like all talk, no action. Political shyster is probably the closest English word that we have to it. It's actually a made-up word that has been adopted into politics. Bill O'Reilly sort of brought it back into vogue a little bit on his show. If you remember his word of the day stuff, don't be a snollygoster.
Terrific.
That's where I sort of got it from as well. So I'm going to throw you a curveball because this is not a buffoon that we talked about. On the Republican side, the person that fits the phrase snollygoster the best, in my opinion, is Lauren Boebert. Lauren Boebert, who I think needs the Republican Party more than the Republican Party needs her, by the way, has been in Congress for several terms now, has a very, very, very big mouth, but hasn't accomplished really a damn thing. And we found this out this year when she changed districts from her current district to another one that was more winnable, basically carpetbagging within her own state. And during a primary debate, Boebert was exposed in this line of questioning. Check this out.
How many bills did you prime sponsor in the U.S. Congress that actually were signed by the President of the United States?
Good question. Good question.
Well, I think the voters back home should know that a no-nonsense conservative should not have a failing Liberty score.
What?
And I'm the only person.
Would you like to answer the question, or would you like to talk about Liberty
Thank
scores?
You.
You can answer the question, ma'am. It's
certainly
okay.
Will. So,
I asked a very specific question. Please answer.
Painted yourself in a corner, huh?
One of my favorite pieces of legislation that has been signed into law is my Pueblo Jobs Act that creates at least 1,000 jobs.
Now we're getting somewhere.
But there are also many other pieces of legislation that I've passed through the House. And
it doesn't matter if it's passed through the House. If the president doesn't sign it, ma'am,
government, and I'm not going to compromise my principles.
What else did you do?
I would give you one more opportunity if you would like to answer his question, which is the number of bills you've prime sponsored that have been signed by the president.
So my Pueblo Jobs Act has been signed into law.
A number, please.
That is one.
Got it.
That is one. All that time in Congress, all that hot air going out of Lauren Boebert's mouth, she passed one bill that created 1,000 jobs. Now, yes, there's something to be said about split government and all of that, but other than that one accomplishment, she could think of nothing else to say that she got done for her constituency. That, to me, is a Leech.
I'm torn, Gene. I'm torn.
You're torn? Okay, you are torn because you know I'm right.
No, I kind of, listen, in the political sense, if you look through that lens, okay, that was a good gotcha question. But like me as a conservative, here's where I'm mixed, right? One is I don't believe congressmen should be passing a lot of laws, right? So that would have been my answer. But here's where I'm torn. The problem with a Lauren Boebert is she is, and I'm not trying to sound elitist or anything because I'm just some dumb kid from Brooklyn myself. But when you have people that, her background is sketchy as far as education and accomplishments in any kind of academic or business sense, right? So when you have people like that in Congress, I don't know how they're ever going to get a bill passed, right? Unless a lobbyist hands them a bill to put on the floor, right? So maybe it's better off that she's not sponsoring a lot of bills and getting them onto the floor, because I just don't know what she can actually get passed. She votes the right way. That's good. And that's maybe what she should have said. Look, I'm not a big government person. I don't believe in passing a bunch of laws, but my Liberty score is high because I vote for the good ones. I don't know, but I get what you're saying. She's not going to move the agenda forward because she can't. I don't think she has the tools. She's not equipped. Right. And there's a bunch of them like that. I love Marjorie Taylor Greene because she's great for a soundbite and craziness. Right, but I don't expect some words of wisdom or some well-crafted piece of legislation that moves our agenda forward coming out of her office. I just don't expect it.
No, and I hear that. My whole thing is I think that Lauren Boebert exposed herself this year, not in a good way, in the fact that she changed districts.
Not in the movie theater way.
Not in the movie theater way. That is correct. Oh, it was the actual theater. I don't even know. I think it was like a play, but whatever. The joke stands. Lauren Boebert, in my opinion, exposed herself by changing districts because it was more about holding office than doing something in the office. She's there for the title. She's there for the power and influence that comes with it, and not necessarily there to serve a certain constituency. In fact, she dropped her constituency in favor of another one. And to me, that is a political leeching off the system. And my feet they're stapled to the floor on this one. So
yeah, and I mean she also leached onto the Matt Gaetz chaos, and now she's radio silent after all that. So I don't know what happened to her.
Cenk Uygur crossed over from political hack in media into running for president on the Democratic side, but not really, because he didn't qualify to be president, even though he claimed to have been qualified to be president, and ultimately ended up doing fuck all during whatever the Democratic primary season was.
I am running. Yes, I am a break glass in case of emergency candidate. It should not have been me. It should have been someone else, but unfortunately it was not anyone else. And now there's only 4 months left. We must change course.
Cenk's biggest hurdle is the fact that he
was not born in the United States. And so...
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah, unfortunately, the community notes under his announcement tweet reads, Cenk Uygur was born in Istanbul, Turkey, and is therefore ineligible to hold the office of President of the United States, which requires the candidate to be a natural-born citizen.
Yeah, I mean, he totally fits the category, right? He was a talking head on TV. He was a pom-pom cheerleader for any Democratic candidate for a very long time. But at the end of the day, like these last few weeks, I think he doesn't even believe what the Democratic Party stands for. He was just leeched onto him and riding that wave. Like now I'm not even sure what he is, right? I don't think he knows what he believes in. I have no idea what he really believes in. He just wants to be on social media and television spots. And I don't know if he's ever going to lead for a Democratic candidate again with the way things went. But well, he has no core. So like, I don't know if we don't want him.
Yeah, no takes backsies, right? And now he's trying to worm his way into, I guess, Elon Musk and the Trump administration a little bit. Well, we saw the clip in last week's live show, and we saw it on our discussion of The Narcissist, which, by the way, just was released this morning. We put that clip out there if you guys want to see it. And we saw how he jumps on bandwagons a lot from what I see.
Well,
he's progressive. Then he's saying, I told you so, because he was the one having the true believer values out there. And then he goes to try to talk to Elon Musk about government efficiency and cutting like defense spending. And he justifies it all by saying that his principles are all the same and he's willing to work with anyone. But at the end of the day, he doesn't really accomplish anything.
This is the tweet that you sent that's very controversial. Let's put it up here. Hey, Elon Musk, put me in charge of the Pentagon. I'll slash $400 billion easy. That'll get you 20% to your goal of $2 trillion right out of the gate. I went to Wharton 3 years before you. I own a media company, so I know how to run a business. If you really want to cut, put me in coach. Elon Musk actually responded and said, specific suggestions are welcome. What is the problem?
Yeah, I can't imagine what the problem is. What I'm telling the left is take the win. It's not that complicated.
Yeah, I just wanted to double tap that, right? So now he's leeching onto DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. But like the very small handful of Democrats out there that are willing to entertain DOGE, they only have one department that they are all in unison saying that they want to cut. And that's the Department of Defense. Now, I want to go on record saying I think the Department of Defense should be cut, right? But they are one of all the other agencies that should be cut in departments, right? But the Democrats, including Cenk, they only want one, all right? And that exposes them. They haven't learned from any of their past mistakes. He's a leech. He's trying to leech on Elon and Vivek right now. Don't fall for it, guys. They have one agenda: cut the Department of Defense to weaken America. That's it. And I'm not saying not to cut the DOD because they waste a lot of money. But that's their only department that they think wastes money, right? You can get rid of the EPA, the Department of Education. There's a bunch of them. You can get rid of whole cloth and it wouldn't affect your daily life at all. But the DOD might.
And I bet you they're thinking they know exactly where they want to put all those savings from any cuts in defense spending.
Their efficiency, you're 100%, you nailed it there, Gene. Democrats' view of government efficiency, if they make a cut from only the DOD, that's the only one they ever want to cut, that money just goes into some other government agency or program. It doesn't go back to the people or go towards the deficit. It goes into another program.
How about Liz Cheney as a political leech this year? Does she fit the bill?
I think, I don't want to tip my hand here, but I think she's going to be a hard one to beat. And not just because she is universally despised. She was infected with Trump derangement syndrome early on. And then she leached onto the January 6th committee and rode that thing into the grave and possibly a prison cell in the next administration with the way she conducted herself on that select committee, right? She was, for our listeners and everyone out there, if you remember, the Republicans were not allowed to appoint their own members of that committee, breaking with tradition in the House of Representatives. And Liz Cheney just crossed the line and went onto the committee herself at the behest of Nancy Pelosi and leached onto that thing till the bitter end. This is going to be a tough one to beat, Gene.
And then not only that, then leached onto the anti-Trump train, if you want to call it that, and went on tour with Kamala Harris as a surrogate for her campaign. You want to talk about leeching and getting, more, I guess, notoriety and more resources going into your coffers. Because I'm sure the Harris campaign was spending tons on surrogates. Liz Cheney was getting some of that sweet, sweet Dem money while betraying her own values, all in the name of trying to remain relevant in 2024.
Because we're here in North Carolina, I think it is crucially important for people to recognize not only is what I just said about the danger that Trump poses something that should prevent people from voting for him, but I don't believe that we have the luxury of writing in candidates' names, particularly in swing states. And as a conservative, as someone who believes in and cares about the Constitution, I have thought deeply about this. And because of the danger that Donald Trump poses, not only am I not voting for Donald Trump, but I will be voting for Kamala Harris.
And that was going to be my question to you, Gene, that, typical Leech fashion, she leeched onto Kamala's campaign. Can you name a single thing other than Trump derangement syndrome that she actually agreed with Kamala Harris on?
No, in fact, and we've played this on the show, I'll make sure I put the clip in on replay. But once upon a time when Joe Biden, then candidate Joe Biden, selected his running mate, one of the most outspoken people against Kamala Harris was Liz Cheney.
In one fell swoop here, he has put somebody on the ticket whose voting record in the Senate is to the left of Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. So I think that, the American people are going to look at the substance of this. They're going to look at what she stood for in the past. They're going to look at what she said during the primary election. And it's very clear. She is a radical liberal. She's somebody that has said we ought to spend $32 trillion on Medicare for all. If you look at her record as well in California, she did, in fact, essentially ban gun sales with executive action. And she threatened during the primaries to do the same thing if she's elected.
My politics makes very strange bedfellows at times.
Yes. So was her goal to actually help Kamala get elected? Or was her goal to remain somewhat relevant somehow after losing her primary very embarrassingly, after being in Congress so long and being part of the Cheney dynasty?
I am sure that was her gambit to try to wrest control of the Republican Party back to the neocons from the populist wing. And if Trump would have lost, you would have seen Liz Cheney and John Bolton and all the other neocons out there going, I told you so. We were right all along. This is what our value should be. Come back to us. And they would have tried to wrest control of the party back from the MAGA populists out there. That was her game, in my opinion. I talked about this definition change that I've been thinking about for the Leech category. We've hit on a lot of the political class. What about the punditry class? Do you think we should talk about them more as leeches, or should we wait till later on when we start talking about the political hacks in journalism, pal? What's your feeling on this as one of the forefathers of political buffoonery?
I think the media, and early on in our days in Brooklyn, I was very critical of the media back then too. Even the local, the local papers, the local online bloggers, they were leeches, right? And most of them were leftists, almost exclusively, really, were leftists. So I think they are absolutely fair game. They have become propagandists for the government, in particular the Democratic Party, at all levels of government, right? And they leech on to not only for clickbait, but they like getting invited to those rubber chicken dinners, and they like having the cell phone number of an elected official or a chief of staff to an office, right? They're worse leeches than a lot of political operatives that I know.
And they love the consultant money. They love the media contribution money and those contracts as well. And they like being the quote unquote thought leaders, while again, not accomplishing anything of any substance, either for society or for any segment of people. And there's lots of them that we can talk about here. I just want to highlight them real quickly, sort of as a class here. We had talked off air about people like Michael Eric Dyson, who likes to think of himself as so high and freaking mighty. Yet this year, we saw him, I think it was on CNN, he was on a panel with Congresswoman Nancy Mace, who has been making a lot of news lately. And he was going after Nancy Mace about the proper pronunciation, I think, of Kamala Harris's name.
The polls are a statistical dead heat. You say that means that she's losing. I'm saying for Donald Trump to have already been president once and coming back with the same reruns, Donald Trump is in a very vulnerable
Talk
position.
about rerun. Kamala's.
You had it right.
You almost got it. I will say Kamala's name any way that I want to.
And then all hell broke loose.
No, but you mispronounced her and you also misjudged her.
I just did, and I'll do it again.
Mispronouncing her name.
That's a refusal to acknowledge her humanity.
If I purposely mispronounced your name, that would not be appropriate.
Policies are Joe Biden's policies. She owns
You're
it.
normalizing that kind of viciousness, man. And let me just say this, because this Congresswoman is a wonderful human being, but when you disrespect Kamala Harris by saying you will call her whatever you want, I know you don't intend it to be that way. That's the history and legacy of white disregard for the humanity of black people.
Oh, so now you're calling me racist.
I didn't say. I just said you weren't a racist.
That is complete.
No, you don't have to intend racism to accomplish
you are
it.
intending that
Your
I'm
disrespect
racist,
of Kamala
and
Harris
that is
part and parcel of a tradition of disrespect.
And then it was revealed by Nancy Mace while she was in a committee hearing how Michael Eric Dyson was trying to hit her up in some DMs or text messages.
I'd like to also enter into the record a screenshot of a text message I received from the esteemed professor from Vanderbilt, Michael Eric Dyson, after my CNN interview, begged me for photos. In this text, he says, after calling me racist on CNN, shh, don't tell anybody, we look good together, and sent me a kissy emoji.
Without
objection.
objection.
The guy
Order.
says I'm gorgeous in all these photos. I don't think he's that bent out of shape on how anyone pronounces Kamala.
Wow. Talk about sharking your way up, huh?
Right? And I am no big fan of Nancy Mace, to be brutally honest. But that was unbelievable that Mr. Dyson felt comfortable enough to not only get that congresswoman's phone number, but then to shoot her an inappropriate text. Like, these leeches get so full of themselves because of the people that they hang out with and speak to that politics is show business for ugly people, basically, right?